Can you all hear me?
This is Aaron. I can hear you. Jackie, I'm logging in through my laptop, so.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Recording in progress.
I'm trying to fix my audio, so give me a few minutes.
Okay, I logged on through my laptop, so.
Hello? Hi, Davina. Can you hear me, Davina? Can you hear me, Aaron?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I guess we're not using this headset today. Just here. I know we had another individual who wanted to join today. Let's see. We will start in a few minutes. So Erin, do you want questions during the presentation?
Yeah, I would be okay with questions during, rather than waiting till the end. So
Okay.
if anything comes up or you have any questions, I would feel free to ask.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's see. Pin you. And do you need to share your screen?
No, it's going to be more along the lines of just a lecture.
Okay.
Oh.
Nice. I like that picture behind you.
The Mesa Verde.
Yeah, cool. Let's see.
My uncle got that for me for our housewarming party some 20 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Let's see.
Shandine's convinced Kiani's are half Hopi.
That's what my mom says too.
After she went to Mesa Verde and there's that rock house, that tall rock house.
Oh, yeah.
So she's convinced that you guys are half Hopi.
That's too funny. I believe it. I believe.
They're Kiani too.
Yeah.
So
Hmm. Hmm. See. We'll give it a few more minutes. Let's see. Mhm. So today is the last session for the series.
it seemed like it went by quick or moved along fairly quick.
Yeah, I mean, it's just flying by like the days. Time is flying by.
Did you get a good response to others?
No,
No.
no. The only person who's attended is Davina
Okay.
today. And I had one student from NAU wanting to attend too, but I don't know if she'll log in. We will see. Let's see. So basically, pretty slow, but I'm having people record their presentations so that way we can put them on the website or YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so. So if you want to start, whenever you want to start, just let me know and then I can do a brief introduction and hand it over to you.
Okay, let me try and turn on another light. It seems like I'm dark. Okay. Lamatapke. My name's Aaron Sikakaku, and I'm from the Hopi Reservation, from the Greasewood clan, and I reside here in Donny Park with my family, and recently left NACA after nearly 13 years of working in the after schools program. So in August, I started a job with the Flagstaff School District as a Native American interventionist with the elementary levels. So I pretty much worked a lot of years with kids and being able to do some lessons with them that are around decision making, and hopefully I'll be able to share a little bit of that. So with that said, I'm going to take the approach more so from a Hopi's interpretation of decision making, as well as some of the consequences and how our structures were actually set up to allow for maybe some disciplinary actions that needed to happen, along with some of the wrong decisions that we made. So that's going to kind of be the direction we go with what I'm going to present this evening. So I don't have any slides, but so everything will be just through oral presentation, and I believe Jackie's recording, so that should be available somewhere online in the future. So what we as people have been accustomed to in the Western form of living is that many times, even in our education process, we are told that there are consequences for our decisions that we make. And so we continue to use that verbiage, that language with our kids as we raise them. And some will heed the warning as far as making decisions based on what opportunities or are presented before them. And we can only hope as parents, guardians, that our kids will make the right decision as they move forward or decide what the next step will be. And so one of the questions that I have that you can think about is, how does culture factor into decision making? And one of the first points that I come up with when I think about that is, does leadership make decisions deep within the community or the church or in ceremonies? So basically, my thought there was that we have these leaders, whether it's a pastor, medicine man, someone that's ordained within our religions, and there are many times where I feel like, and I've seen that they would make decisions solely based on what their congregation or what their individuals below them would contribute to the decision. But then there's been also times where we've seen where leadership will be reckless and functioning maybe on pride or something along those lines, that decisions are not made in a fair way with some due diligence that is behind it. So when you think about that, how are your leaders within your communities making these decisions? And maybe to some effect, how are you making decisions for your life? And then along that same idea is that most times we look at leadership in a traditional aspect, and we realized that some of these individuals have been ordained and chosen at a young age to hold various responsibilities or leadership positions within our communities. And so when we have those structures, we we have the we have a person identified, and so as a community we continue to take care of those individuals because we know that they're going to bear the weight of our problems and of our well-being for our people. And then the other side of it, you have individuals that seek out those leadership positions, and those could be pastors and in some cases the medicine man, where they've gone out and asked somebody to train them, to mentor them, to get them to this position that they hold. So two various or two different types of appointments, so to speak, of how leadership is come about for some people. Some people don't have a choice, and others again seek it out. And then one of the things that always resonates, regardless of what capacity you're in, and that's the treatment of people. And obviously making decisions along those lines because of what position you hold, and trying then to reflect the principles and values of what you stand for as far as your culture and your faith. And so again, being reflective of that and being able to have the utmost respect for individuals, and trying your best to treat people fairly. And many times within our structures, we have a lot of respect for medicine man or pastors, and even various, in my case, Kiva leadership. And so those individuals hold an utmost respect from us as individuals that come in contact with them. So again, back to some of the structures that I know is slipping by. And in days past, there was a lot of respect in my generation for uncles. And when we made the wrong decision or did something wrong, it was our uncles within our families that handed down the disciplinary actions. And that would be from our maternal side. And we look at those and we see that structure, or that part of our culture and our lives are being disrupted. And it could be for a number of reasons, whether it's family feuds or alcohol and so forth. And so it's hard now for kids to actually have a fear or look at someone in an authoritative figure when homes are also broken, and the single parent home of sorts is factoring in, and there's no fear of being disciplined or any kind of actions taken from anybody outside of the home that they're residing in. So I think, again, one of the things that I always look back on is being able to create something along those lines of having your kids, fearful of someone that can come in and actually hand down disciplinary actions. And I think through that process, there's a little bit more fear and a little bit more thought into what the kids are doing. And it's just a constant reminder, when we create that fear, the good fear, that someone is going to be hovering over them, but at the same time, we also know that there's somebody else that child needs to be held accountable for. And I think as we get older, our cultures, I think whichever culture or tribe you come from, a majority of them see life as value. And so one of the things that comes about is shame for some decisions that we make. And some people, really need to think the process through And one of the things and that comes about is this idea of abortion. It's talked about in our culture that we value each human life, and it's taught about to be a pro-life individual. But we know that there's people amongst us within our tribes, within our families that maybe have gone through and made that decision to have an abortion. And so some of those decisions that we make are known. And so there's this shame of sorts that happens to the individual that had to make those decisions, knowing that they've gone against what the cultural norms are or the cultural principles and values are of who we are. So always being ready to accept some of that responsibility on yourself. And it's something that I feel like you can put in the back pocket eventually, but having the courage to step out and ask for help and being able to address, the traumatic experience and the example I gave of an abortion. And a lot of times there's a couple of things that we as natives look at each other, and one of that is being able to be respectful. And the other one is our work ethic. And then the third one that I came about is the spirituality. And the last one that I had is just being someone that's humble. And when I think of humbleness, it's having the ability to listen. So when I think about being respectful, we talk about that over and over and over as we go through our daily lives with our kids. If we have them, or even our nieces and nephews, we always talk about being respectful and not making rude comments or whatever the case may be. So as we continue to move down and move through this life, we hope that the respect would be reciprocated from yourself as an individual to whoever, and then coming back at you. And then the other part of it is the work ethic. We were always told, and we see it within our lives on the reservation for the most part, the work ethic that many of our family members have. And those could be anything from agriculture to farming, or agriculture and farming are the same, but cattle, sheep, the livestock. And how we at times maybe have to haul water and sacrifices along the way. And our work ethic is a contributor to how successful or what kind of life we may have on the reservation in those areas. And then the spirituality, as we know, many believe in the traditional religion, and we also have individuals within our families that are in the Christian faith, the NAC, Navajo religion, and so forth. At some point, I had a aha moment of sorts, and really had to search out and identify who I was. And through that process, it was being able to identify and create a spiritual belief. And it happened at an older age, and being able now to have a foundation of who your belief is in, and being able to utilize that to get the spiritual power, the supernatural power, if you want to look at it in that way, from a higher being. But also continuing to recognize that we all are spiritual people that are here. And as long as we move along on this earth, I feel like, and I know that many of us do need that spiritual uplifting, and whatever form it comes in, that's where we find our comfort in. And then, like I mentioned, the humility and being able to be listeners, better listeners than speakers. And I feel like a lot of times we're quick to respond when we don't completely hear our story out. And that decision to speak out prior to completion of the story or completion of the sentence, those are all decisions that at some point may have consequences because we anger the individual that's telling the story. And I feel like we need to listen and hear them out before we respond. And what it also does in my experience is it gives you an opportunity to search out words, to search out how you can best respond without triggering the other individual and getting upset about things, and having a decent conversations. And some people will see it as in a unfavorable kind of situation, but at the same time, from your perspective and from my story here, is that you're better apt at choosing your words and being able to respond in a manner that you'll allow the conversation to happen, and you'll be able to be of assistance to the individual if they're seeking help or asking for recommendations and so forth. So one of the things that this kind of, it goes right into my next point that I have is when you think back, how does your religion factor into decision makings? A lot of times when we're doing ceremonies, we're always looking at a way of being obedient and showing reverence to the ceremony that's taking place. And so through that, we also have a decision whether or not we want to, dress in our Sunday best, so to speak, or our moccasins, our wraps, moccasin wraps, our sash belts and so forth. And all of those things then contribute into how we show respect for the ceremony that's going on. And it's a conscious decision. It's a decision we make prior to even going to the ceremony or packing our clothes for the weekend, if that's what's going to happen. One of the examples that I have at this point in this area is that how we act and how we treat each other within ceremonies is important. In our Hopi culture, our Hopi religion, our Kachina ceremonies, the treatment of individuals is being observed by many. And just recently, within the last 2 years or so, there was an incident with a lady causing issue within the kiva during our night dance ceremonies. And when that was made known to the kiva members, the next day, the Kachinas went to that individual and whipped them with the yaka as a way of public humiliation, but also as a discipline action from a Kachina's perspective, Kachina standpoint. And so some of the things that we're told, and primarily from Kachina religion, is that there are some decisions that are going to involve whipping. There are some decisions that are not going to be very favorable, and as a result, there's that whipping that happens with the yucca. But it also then contributes back to the belief system that as Hopis, we have to be intentional about the decisions we're making. And regardless of our position, there's some decisions that Hopi claims and believes that the consequence for some decisions is life. And so through the process of being maybe feuding over leadership positions that someone has been appointed to at a young age, and trying to fight for those leadership positions that have been already identified to an individual, some of those decisions of that sort would the consequence would be death. And that may not be of yourself. It may be someone of extended family, but it also would include sickness. And so when you make decisions that are not in line with what is known, then those are some of the consequences that you would eventually deal with based on what Hopi's belief system is when it deals with those kinds of decision makings. So I think the main point for me this evening was to share how our family structures have kind of have deteriorated. And by deterioration, I go back to our Hopi structure where the maternal uncles had disciplinary rights to discipline a child. I don't know if anybody on listening in has ever, been sleeping and all of a sudden you either hear your uncle or someone that's in that authoritative figure pull up to your house, and then you're scrambling to get out of bed and making yourself look like you've been up for hours. There's that fear there of some sort of disciplinary action, whether it's in a kidding manner or if it's actually disciplined for decisions, or in this case, a decision to sleep late. And that contributes because we're told as Native individuals to get up early and go greet the sun. And so we look at those kinds of things and how that structure has deteriorated, and being able then to replace, those individuals that could help us in raising our kids, or even help us in as adults make decisions that are favorable, and we can feel comfortable walking away or going to bed that night that you made the best decision based on what you are known, or what was known at the time based on the subject matter. So in what ways could we provide support to each other when we begin to identify and embrace the faith and culture from which we come from? And how does the faith and culture contribute to decision making? As I indicated before, having to re-identify myself, being then to live intentional based on what Hopi stood for, what Hopi's religion and spirituality was taught to us, and keeping those not necessarily at the forefront of your thinking, but knowing that you're accountable and you're representative of the group of people you come from. And because Hopi is a small tribe, it's easy for myself to say, yeah, I represent not only my family, but also the teachings of a Hopi individual. And through that process, the implementation of being intentional for me would be continuing to do agriculture and being able to participate in our ceremonies as they come about within the village that I'm from, and that's the village of Wakabi. And how much of a sacrifice are we willing to make in order to keep that identity and keep that positive impact on people that we come in contact that are either younger or even people that are older, and how we're able to share and demonstrate by our actions that we're living the best we could, knowing that we're balancing to able to look and respect the tribal governance. And the Hopi villages, there are some villages that still function under traditional governance, meaning they don't have any sort of leadership, so to speak, aside in a Western form. And so when decisions need to be made, the leaders, the priests or chiefs, if you want to look at it as another term, they gather and they make decisions on behalf of our villages. So being able then to look and like I said, live intentional. What's your next step going to be, and how does our teaching and how does our culture contribute to whether or not it's going to determine whether or not we put seeds in the ground, or do we go out and get more cattle. You know, we look at the landscape and it's very dry right now. So in most eyes, it's not a favorable time right now to go out and start a livestock business unless you have deep pockets and are willing to provide the feed for them. So again, I can't stress that enough, because the intentional term really resonates with me. And regardless of what you find as your spiritual side of you, it's always going to contribute to you as an individual in making those intentional decisions, intentional steps as you move forward in life. And it's also a contributor to how you bring your kids up. And when things like like the situation that happened with me, it became added pressure, if you want to look at it that way, to be able to set some goals and how you wanted to have your kids raised, and how things you can eliminate and add other things to fill those voids, if it's something bad that you need to eliminate from your life. But at the end of the day, we're all accountable to ourselves. And as it's said, you know, we're at times we're our worst critics. But at the same time, we also need to be held accountable to ourselves. And being held accountable also contributes to the uncle examples that I gave, because you're also being watched, and they have that authority to hand down disciplinary actions if that's what happens. And too many times, you know, we come across people that have problems based on decisions, and the quickest thing is to say, I'll pray for you. But we also need to continue to have that interaction with one another to be that support. And they may not have the same belief, the same culture, same tribal beliefs, but we also serve as a educational opportunity to share and learn about each other. And who knows, you know, at some point, and this is at some point, we may be able to be be the lifesaver for this individual that's going through hard times. And again, those are intentional decisions to want to step out and share. But at the beginning of all of this, we have to learn to take care of ourselves, and finding that identity with who you are through your culture and your belief system, I feel like contributes a lot to the establishment of yourself and who you are and how you're able to help others. So on that note, Jackie, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Is there any questions out there? Davina, Asava, do you guys have any
No.
questions?
No,
Okay.
just listening.
Okay,
Same as well, just listening.
okay. So Aaron was talking about, you know, making connections. I know he said a lot about, you know, making decisions and how our culture and our religion impact the decisions that we make in our life. And there could be good consequences, and there could be bad consequences. And Aaron touched on a good point about making connections. And I believe that anybody I come in contact with, that I have a relationship with them in some way, shape, or form. So I want to go around and just, you know, introduce yourself and say your clans or your tribe. And there's bound to be a relative in this room. We always seem to find a relative somehow or some way. And that way Aaron can tease you. Just kidding, if you're related to him. So who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Davina Claw. I'm Navajo, Diné from Navajo Nation, Chinle, Arizona. I am 35 years old. I am officially, well, my clans are Kia'ani, Tuapahin, Ashti, and Maigaskijni. And yeah, so I was originally born and raised in Chinle, Arizona.
Awesome.
That's all.
Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Hoseva. I grew up on the Hopi Reservation in a small village called Holtvilla. I miss it very much. I haven't been able to go back due to COVID. And I'm still in school right now too at NAU. And I recently just got my master's degree in public health. So that's a little bit about me. My clans, my Hopi clans are Arrow Clan and Spider Clan.
Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. Aaron, do you?
What's Hoseva, your spider clan, is that from your mother's side or your dad's side?
My maternal side, yes. And my mom's last name is Pawiki.
Okay, and she's spider clan?
She's Spider Clan as well too.
Okay,
Mhm.
so in all, within our structure, you would be my dad because my dad is Bear Strap from Sumopavi. And
Oh.
the Bear Strap, so in Hopi, we have a clan, like in my case, my clan is Greasewood. And all Hopi clans have an animal affiliation. And part of that is just to be to have offerings to something that's living.
Mhm.
And so the Greasewood clan, they associate with the Roadrunner and the Quail. And so those are the two clans, like up in Palaka, First Mesa area, there's a Roadrunner clan.
Mhm.
And so when we come across those individuals, they're Tewa, but they're Roadrunner clan, Tewa and Hopi, we would consider them as our sisters, our brothers, mothers, and so forth. And so in the case of you being Spider Clan, my dad is Bear Strap clan from Sumopavi. And their animal, what they call wuya, is spider. And so with that said, you would technically, I would acknowledge you as my father, because that's how the structure is identified. And it further brings our kinship closer together, like Jackie was mentioning. And it also then says, oh, well, he's related to me. Maybe I should make a better decision. Those kinds of things and thoughts that come to mind. So, and I think I know what family you're from, but I'm not positive, and we can have an offline conversation on that. So,
Yes, definitely. Oh,
so
thank
and
you for
then,
sharing.
yeah, and then Jackie and Divina, Miss Claw, or Kiani. So in my eyes, I'm an in-law to you guys because my wife is Navajo from Loop area. So I would be your in-law from that perspective. And again, it creates this community of sorts even within us right now that we're able to recognize and speak to each other in those manners. So
Did you introduce yourself, Aaron? Or did I miss that? Just kidding.
I did. My
Oh, you
name's Aaron Sikakaku, Greasewood clan from Bakavi on the Hopi Reservation, and I've lived here in Flagstaff for over 20 years. I went to school at NAU in '92 and just never went home. So we have a home out here in Donny Park, and I have two girls. One's going to school up in Fort Lewis, her third year, halfway, 3.5 years, and my younger one just started at CCC. So she wasn't ready to go off and explore the world at this point. So she decided just to stay home and start with her liberal arts classes at CCC. So, and my wife is Navajo from Loop. And so I just picked her up on the way home one day.
That's funny.
I saw Kathy join.
Yeah, Kathy is here to join us as well. Just to introduce myself, my name is Jacqueline Salabai. I currently work at Native Americans for Community Action, and I've resided in Flagstaff for 19 years. And before that, I grew up in Winslow, Arizona, but born on the Navajo Nation and originally from the Greasewood Springs area. So my clan is Kia'ani. I'm Towering House, born for Tabaha. And then my Chays are Nash Eja, I'm born for Tachini, and then my Chays are Nash Eja Tabaha, the Zuni Edgewater clan, and then my Nollies are Bitterwater Putajitni. So that is who I am as a woman. And I really do appreciate you all for being here, because I like to hear everyone's clanships and where they're from. And we really like to make connections. And I like to do that with people I sit with. And even if we're just, you know, sitting around, and we can make those connections. So I really do appreciate that. So Davina, you would be my little sister.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, you know, along the way, like Erin was saying, that, when we make decisions, now that we know that we're related, the decisions that we make are really impactful, not only to myself, but also to all of you. Because, Davina, you're my little sister. I want to show you that I'm able to make good decisions. I'm able to be a good role model. And my decision might be impactful to you. And then also with Aaron, he's our in-law. So I have to, make decisions in a good way. Otherwise, if we make hard decisions or bad decisions, sometimes people, they like to tease you, or, some of those decisions that you made were probably not good. And so they're going to come back and say, remember that time? So they'll always remember that, and it'll always be in their brain, seared in their brain. And so I always like to think of that, since we're all related and we can tease each other, or, we have different roles that we have in the community. So I really do like to share those clanships. Davina, were you going to say something?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No, just listening stuff.
Okay.
I think I have one more story now that came to mind when Jackie was talking about teasing. My older daughter was in middle school here in Flagstaff, and the teasing, this is kind of along those lines, but she was in middle school here. She got caught with marijuana on campus. And, we, as a way of holding her accountable for this decision she made, there was other factors that contributed to it. But to maybe put some emphasis on not having her do it again, our families were made aware of what she was, what the situation she was in. And so we went through the process. We had to deal with the courts and all that good stuff. And at the end of the day, it was a lesson to be learned. And the reason that I bring this up is that we notified our families, our immediate families, my brothers and so forth, and Linda's family as well. And we made them known the situation. And so now, when we're out barbecuing or whatever the case is, and everybody's like, well, who brought the matches or who has a lighter? The first name that comes out of just about everybody's mouth is our daughter's name, because she was caught with the marijuana, and, the lighter and all that go hand in hand. So it's just one of those things where it continues to be a tease, but it's also reminding her that she made a decision, and now it's something that we can joke about. But at the time, we were not very favorable of the situation we had to go through. So those kinds of things, again, being held accountable for some decisions you make, and that teasing, like Jackie mentioned, is one way that we can continue to be reminded that, yeah, we made this decision, it wasn't good, but now we can joke about it. So that's a story that I share with people as well.
That's funny. And it's also used as a form of prevention. Like, it kind of teaches us, like Erin was saying, it teaches us not to do it again, because we know what's going to happen. We know the consequences. We know that, if I get caught doing something bad again, what's going to happen? Dad or auntie or grandma's going to do this, and I'm not going to hear the end of it. So, culturally, that's basically how it went. And also, aunties and uncles, like Erin was saying, they were a big role model in our lives. They were big disciplinaries. So they would always say, auntie's here, hurry up and run, and, what are you doing? And Auntie's going to say this or Auntie's going to say that, or make sure that Auntie doesn't see you with that because she's going to get upset, you know? So growing up, I would hear that a lot with our aunties and our uncles. So yeah, Erin, do you have any other comments?
I don't. Open to questions if there's any.
Any more questions or comments from the audience? No? Okay. So it looks
Just want to
like
welcome Kathy. I know you joined late, but welcome and hope you're able to pick up a little bit. If not, we'll have coffee, Kathy.
No, I did. Thank you very much.
Kathy, what is your background? Do you know your mom and dad's ancestry? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, my dad's family, his parents came over from Italy right around 1900, a little bit before. He's the 12th kid, so his parents were old enough to be his grandparents when he was born. So there's like a whole generation missing on that side. His oldest brother was born the same week as my mom's dad. So it's sort of weird. My mom's side of the family is just a mix of everything. They've been here. There's a little German, a little Dutch, a little English, a little Irish. There were some Germans that came over in the 1700s in Virginia. There was a grandfather who was Dutch. So it's just a big mix on that side.
I see. Nice. Thank you for sharing, Kathy. I really like to get the background of our non-natives too, because it helps to create that sense of community. Like, even though we're all native here, the non-native individuals who join us, I really like to be inclusive of them because, you know, they have ancestry, they have traditions, they, you know, they can be. I remember one time we did this in a group, and two of our non-natives that were in the group were actually sat down and talked to each other about, you know, because they were both from a specific area, and they were both, you know, I don't remember what it was. I think it was Italian, but they both got to talking, and so it created that sense of connection. So I really do enjoy doing this, and, you know, sitting here and listening to people's background and where they come from, because it does create that sense of community. And looking at the work that I do with Native Americans for Community Action, and, you know, the foundation of that was to help our brothers and sisters of our Native communities and give them a sense of empowerment and, you know, advocate for Indigenous rights. And so looking at that as a foundation with what I do now at NACA with the Native Connections program, I focus on youth empowerment and youth coping skills and just coping with daily life. And so, you know, you take that and you look at it and you dissect it and you look at all the issues that we're facing, and you try to find a way that to make it positive. And so the only way that we can combat a lot of these things that we're facing today is by creating connections, whether that's through clanships, through kinships, through discussions, through professional discussions. We're still able to, you know, go back to our traditional roots and create those connections to combat some of these things that we're facing today. So I really do appreciate each and every one of you for sharing your voice, for sharing your background, and for coming together and just to meet new relatives, you know, and also to hear Aaron's wisdom and his words. I really do appreciate Aaron. He's come from NACA. He's worked there for many years, so I've worked with him for years as well. So I really do like that he's able to come out and join us tonight. So if there's no other questions, we're all good. Or if you're able to stay here and chat, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I'll stay on for a little bit longer if anybody has any questions.
Yes. And then I will email you all a survey link and take the survey, and I'll send you a certificate of participation. Okay. I'm going to stay on for a few minutes as well.
Okay, well, good evening. Thank you guys. And I'm just learning my tradition again. I really want to get back into the culture wise because I do have a background of good well, my dad is a roadman. I'm Native American church tradition. And just recently I went home, we did a ceremony for my dad, and it was just really great, you know, surrounding in the hogan around the fire, and just getting to meet my uncles again, and just talk. The language is really, really good, you know, but I don't really speak it myself, but I'm willing to learn it. I'm willing to learn more about my history and my background as well. I didn't really grow up with my Nolly or my grandma because they passed away when I was young. So it's really good to see people with their grandmas these days and their Nollies. And it's just that, you know, I want to get to know more about the teachings, especially during winter time is coming around, like the storytelling, the string games and all that. I never was taught all those. So it's a good way to start right now for me. So with that, you know, I just like to say thank you again for sharing everything. And yeah, so clanship is really number one thing that my parents taught us to say and to speak about when we introduce ourselves. So that's the only introduction I have of myself right now is just my clans and my name. So with that, just want to say thank you guys again tonight, and I'm looking forward to the survey.
Okay.
Yeah, Davina, the one of the things that I would encourage you with is that it's a teaching, and in Hopi it's called Paangni. And it's being able to assist, being able to help out when it fits into your schedule. At times, that's what it boils down to. And so if you have other individuals, you know, within your circle that are having the ceremonies, feel free to contribute a case of water or, you know, some mutton, whatever you have, you know, because we know that food is kind of a way of bringing people together. And even if it's a small amount, it finds a way to reproduce itself over and over. And a lot of times I say there's laughter around the table. And those are good times to be able to share, whether it's, you know, like I said, just a case of water if somebody's having a ceremony. But then the other teaching that I'll mention is that I was taught that anytime somebody comes to your home, you offer them something to eat or drink. And the belief within Hopi is that we always acknowledge that person as someone that is not traveling alone. And so when you ask them to come in, you don't just say you come in. It's more along the lines of you guys come in. Because we don't know, and Christianity talks about this, and our native religion talks about this, is that we don't know who these individuals are and what their purpose is. And so we look at them as them not traveling alone, and that they're with somebody, and there's a purpose, just like our teachings are. There's a reason and a purpose for why things happen. And whether we understand it or not, that's open for interpretation from any religion or whichever culture you come from. So yeah, just continue to give back. And like I said, even if it's a case of water or even just showing up, because there's a high value on actually having people there to cut mutton or, you know, chop wood, whatever the case may be. Just some examples, but yeah, continue to give back. And that's part of our teachings as well.
Okay, well, thank you, and you guys have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yes, have a good evening as well.
Okay. Paz tengo.
All right.
That's
We'll
what-
see you.
Take care.
Bye, Kathy.
Bye-bye.